pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to speak with you, Matt.
I appreciate it. So this is not a direct retelling of events. What did you take to be the foundation of this story then, and what interested you about it?
Honestly, I think we just took it. The Great Maple Syrup Heist was alluring enough, and then we kind of just got inspired from there and went off in our own direction with new characters, a new way to do the crime, and all that sort of stuff, while also leaving us the potential to have more and more seasons with more and more story for those characters.
Yeah, this is sort of a historical fiction take on the Great Maple Syrup Heist. We know the event happened, but from there we're just kind of playing with it and turning it into our own thing.
Well, what about the setting? What's specifically being stolen? What aspects of those did you find fun to play with for either of you?
I think we loved it. I mean, the fact that it was all so specific, and Quebec and Montreal was so alluring to us. I mean, we're from the States, but man, is it just a great world to play in. It's just so fun to go into a place where a lot of people don't know, and then really dive deep into it and explore it. We shot there for 4 or 5 months, fell in love with Montreal, and got to go, didn't shoot anything on the set. We shot all in locations. We had to go and see the countryside and all these amazing places, and kind of fell in love with it ourselves.
Yeah, Montreal is one of those cities that a lot of people go if they want to shoot in New York, but don't want to go to New York, or if they want to shoot Boston. It's one of these places that is constantly made to look like somewhere else. And it was so fun for us and for the other people working on the show to get to show Montreal as Montreal. And you could really feel the excitement from the actors and the designers and the crew that they were getting to tell a story about their home and getting to do it with such precision and detail. People who watch this show who are from Quebec, they're like, oh, you got it. That's Quebec. And that's so special to get to do. And I hope people enjoy watching it. And I hope they go to Montreal and experience it, because it's a fascinating place.
And then, of course, maple syrup. I mean, that's just a sticky thing to talk about. Like, it's so Canadian. A lot of the world doesn't even know about maple syrup, really, But the fact that it is precious to these people. I mean, syrup costs more than oil. That's fascinating to me. And you put their backs against the wall, you give them an out, unlikely as it seems, and see what happens. It's just a intriguing story to start from.
It seems rooted in economic desperation too, and also in tandem with that, the nature of being an underdog or of being underappreciated. All three of these main characters pretty much are. Where did that sort of come from organically in telling the story? Was that sort of intentional? And I guess when the time you were developing it, did it sort of reflect where we were? Obviously, you're in Quebec, but internationally, with austerity, with depending on the year, you name it.
Yeah, I think telling an underdog story was very much on the top of our minds. As soon as you say there is a conglomerate that controls all the syrup in Quebec, which mostly controls all the syrup in the world, any one person standing up against that is inherently an underdog. Brian and I have worked together for years, and we generally lean toward underdog stories no matter what. We kind of see ourselves somewhat as underdogs. So I think that was always top of mind for us.
Yeah, it's a show that the message happens to be taking place at a perfect time. It's a show about people who are at the bottom and they're tired of it, and they're tired of being kept down. They're tired of the government and of forces that they have no control over, limiting what they can do. And this is the perfect time to tell that story. We've been working on the show for 6 years, but it is finally coming out and finally completed at a time when I think the message is really important of, don't just take what they give you. If they're keeping you down, fight back. And I think people, that will really resonate with people.
And yes, for Ruth, it is financial. For Mike, it is a little bit of financial and, I don't know, pride or something. For Remy, it's really just a matter of respect. I mean, I don't think he doesn't need the money, really. He's content. they're all underdogs in their own ways, trying to find what they need. And I think that speaks universally to everyone. You might have enough money, you might not, but you want something.
Yeah, definitely dignity in that case, or to be heard. I was surprised there was such a sort of cliffhanger. You talked about thinking of this for multiple seasons earlier, and with it not being tethered to reality as such, it's unpredictable. You don't know where it could go at all. But when the actor signed on, when he started it, did everyone sort of have an understanding that they could keep going?
Yeah, the plan for this show when we pitched it was 5 seasons. There's a full story with these characters and all that is involved. The real heist took years, and it was a $20 million operation that had mafia involved. It had all sorts of different facets, both the robbery and then the sale and the smuggling. There were all these fascinating components to the real crime that we wouldn't necessarily replicate, but it shows how much meat on the bone there still is with something like this. It's a huge undertaking. And so we think that there's a lot more to explore there. And it's such a tight family on this show that I'm confident everyone will come back for more.
Fingers crossed. I also think, there's some laughs and it is a half hour, but we're really treating this as a drama in many ways. I mean, we want these characters to evolve and change dramatically over the seasons if we're given the chance. We don't want them to be the same person they started as. And you see some of that in season 1, which I hope you all watch on December 6th on Prime Video. But if we're given the chance to seasons 2 and more, I think you're going to be more and more surprised.
What are some heist movies you've loved throughout the years? Anything come to mind, either as an influence or not?
I think so many of the heist movies that exist, they're great, by the way, are so specific and precise that didn't, honestly, we kind of tried to avoid that. We were trying to be more realistic with real people who were unqualified, still skilled in their own ways, but not for that. Like Ocean's 11 is a masterclass in heist movie. Even the original was a fantastic one, but it is slick and they are sharp and they're never out of control even when they seem to be. That's part of the reveal. That is not the case for us. Our characters are out of control. They're doing their best to keep it in control, but it's much more difficult. I mean, the bank job, and the inside man, I guess, isn't a heist, but it's just, they're all so made for that situation, and that is what we try to actively avoid in this.
Yeah, but it's a great genre to just watch. I mean, The Sting, I guess The Sting is a heist.
Yeah,
love that. Most recently, not a movie, but Andor. Andor's it's a heist show.
Yeah,
it's
right.
just in space. It's just there. It's such a fun genre, but when we started doing it, I was very aware that it's really hard to write a heist. You've got to both have a plan, and then when that plan doesn't work, what's the other plan? It's very challenging for the writers, but it's incredibly fun when you can pull it off.
And it was great to see Jamie Lee Curtis. I believe she's an executive producer. How did that come about? Was she interested in this for multiple years before it started actually being produced?
When we first started, we took the script out. We just wrote it by ourselves, hoping somebody might like it and, either give us another job or maybe make this. And Blumhouse loved it and immediately started, taking interest and partnered with us. And they knew Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, through their work through the horror stuff, and they just knew that she was going to respond to it very well, and they were right. She did, and she was immediately on board as a huge supporter, wanted to take this to the finish line. And honestly, I don't think we could have done it without her. She pushed some hurdles away in ways that we could not have done.
Yeah.
And then she was benevolent enough to ask later on if she could squeeze in a little part for herself, and we were beyond thrilled to do that for her sake, but also mostly for ours. It was a selfish move.
Yeah, I mean, she had enough time in her crazy schedule to do a tiny walkthrough cameo, and we instead asked her if she wanted to play a really big part in the end of the season, and she said the only condition is, can I flirt with Margo Martindale on camera? And we said yes, and she said she was in. And then she gave us infinitely more than we ever expected, and it was a huge dream. And I think when people watch the show and see her part, they're gonna feel like they're really experiencing like the height of Jamie. Like it's so Jamie. It's so fun.
It really is. Well, thank you both for discussing the sticky. I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing people's reactions.
Thank you very much.